The trail cameras do not lie. Somewhere in the forests of mid-Wales around 2020, the footage started showing something nobody expected. Grey squirrels, which had dominated these woodlands for decades, were disappearing from the cameras, and in the gaps they left behind, red squirrels were coming back. Animals that had not been recorded in those valleys for years were suddenly showing up again, blinking in the dark on a motion sensor. So how did 51 animals loaded into a van in Scotland and driven through the night to Wales undo decades of ecological collapse that millions of pounds of human effort could not fix? The Cambrian Mountains sit at the heart of mid-Wales, a stretch of river valleys, moorland, and commercial forestry that looks from the outside like wilderness. Row after row of Sitka spruce, felled and replanted on rotation, following the ridgelines down toward the coast. It's forest in the technical sense, but by the early 2000s, ecologically, large parts of it were hollowed out. The grey squirrel had a lot to do with that. Introduced from North America in the late 1800s, they spread fast and hit native wildlife hard. They outcompete red squirrels for food at every turn, stripping the same trees at the same time of year and winning almost every time because they are bigger, bolder, and more adaptable. But the real weapon is squirrel pox, a virus grey squirrels carry without any symptoms, which kills red squirrels within weeks of exposure. By the time conservationists understood what was happening, grey squirrels had pushed red squirrels to near extinction across Wales and England. Reds retreated to a handful of isolated pockets, mainly in Scotland, and a few islands. In most of Wales, they were gone. What followed was decades of effort to claw the situation back. Trapping programs, culling campaigns, contraceptive bait trials designed to slow grey squirrel reproduction. Every tool available got deployed, and none of it moved the needle at landscape scale. Grey squirrels kept recovering faster than they could be removed. Kill 100 in a woodland, and within 2 years the population bounces back from the edges. The maths simply do not work when you are fighting a species that breeds twice a year and colonizes new territory faster than you can clear it. Meanwhile, another animal was quietly disappearing from the same landscape. Pine martens were once one of the most common carnivores in Britain, fast and agile, built for forest, hunting everything from voles to birds to squirrels. The 19th century destroyed them. Gamekeepers protecting shooting estates killed them relentlessly, and as woodland cover shrank, their habitat fragmented and vanished. By the start of the 20th century, they had been wiped out across Wales and England almost entirely. By 2014, Wales had maybe a handful of animals left, scattered across remote upland patches, functionally extinct. The Vincent Wildlife Trust ran the numbers. The Cambrian Mountains had large connected woodland blocks, a low-density road network that reduced the mortality risk for a ranging carnivore, and enough prey to sustain a population. The habitat was there. What was not there was the predator that used to shape how every other animal in those woods behaved. So in autumn 2015, Dr. Jenny McPherson and her team captured 20 pine martens from healthy populations in the Scottish Highlands and drove them south through the night to Wales. The operation ran across 3 years. 20 animals in 2015, 19 in 2016, 12 in 2017, 51 pine martens in total, all sourced from the Scottish Highlands, all processed by wildlife vets before they left. Every animal got a full health screen, a microchip, a throat patch photograph for visual identification, and a radio collar with a mortality sensor so the team could track them in real time. Blood samples went to Glasgow University Veterinary School to rule out canine distemper virus. Each animal then rode overnight in a modified, climate-controlled van to the release area near Devil's Bridge in North Ceredigion, forests in the horseshoe of valleys carved by the Ystwyth and Rheidol rivers. The soft release protocol gave each animal up to 7 days inside an individual acclimatization pen, furnished with a den box and fed on day-old chicks, eggs, and peanut butter. The idea was simple: keep them close long enough to begin orienting to the new landscape before the pen door opened. The first cohort went into completely empty habitat, no other martens anywhere. For a while, the tracking data looked alarming. Animals made long, erratic exploratory movements, following the wooded river valleys out for miles before looping back toward the release area. Some took 4 months before they established stable home ranges. One male settled in North Wales, spent 2 years there, and was later found dead near Belpaire in Derbyshire. Nobody knows why he moved. It looked briefly like the whole bet might unravel, but most of them came back. The soft release protocol worked well enough to anchor the majority near the release sites, and the team kept supplementary food out for weeks after each pen opened. 6 of the 20 from the first cohort died in the first year, within the expected annual mortality range for wild marten populations. The rest began to settle. The second cohort, released in 2016 with the first-year animals already present and holding territories, behaved completely differently. Instead of the long wandering exploration phase, they settled in roughly 6 days on average, less than half the time it took the 2015 animals. The presence of established martens acted as a signal. It meant this place works, this habitat has already been assessed and claimed. New arrivals used that information and moved faster into the landscape, dispersing further but settling sooner. By spring 2016, at least 4 females from the first cohort confirmed breeding. Kits were born in Wales to mothers that had traveled from Scotland 7 months earlier. That was the first real signal that the project was not just keeping animals alive, it was building a population. The 2018 to 2019 distribution survey confirmed what the tracking data suggested. Volunteers deployed trail cameras and walked transect routes searching for scats across an area extending 30 kilometers beyond the known marten range. At the time of release, pine martens occupied 5 hectares, 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer grid squares. By 2019, they occupied 22. The core population sat in the original release area, anchored to the Ystwyth and Rheidol river valleys. The range had pushed north into Snowdonia, south into Carmarthenshire, and was tracking toward the Brecon Beacons. Macpherson's 2024 population viability analysis modeled the Welsh population forward and found it robust enough to connect with the Forest of Dean reintroduction within 25 years. That would create a continuous marten range across the spine of Wales and into England. But the trail cameras didn't just catch pine martens, they caught what the martens were doing to everything else. What the cameras recorded in areas with confirmed marten occupancy was a shift in grey squirrel activity, with detections dropping as marten presence grew. It is a pattern researchers had already seen play out naturally in Ireland, where pine marten populations recovered on their own over decades, and grey squirrel numbers collapsed in response. In county after county, as martens came back, grey squirrels pulled back, and in the spaces left behind, red squirrels returned to woodland they had not occupied in years, not because anyone put them there, but because the conditions had changed enough for them to survive again. That Irish data, published by Sheehy and Lawton in 2014 and expanded by Sheehy and colleagues in 2018, is what made the Wales project worth attempting. It showed that pine marten recovery did not just suppress grey squirrels locally, it reversed a trajectory that had seemed permanent. Wales was the first deliberate test of whether you could trigger that same effect through translocation, rather than waiting for natural recovery that was not coming. The mechanism runs deeper than predation numbers. Grey squirrels evolved in North American forests alongside a completely different set of predators. They are ground-bold, they cache food at the surface, they do not have the canopy instinct that centuries of marten pressure shaped into red squirrels. A pine marten does not need to kill every grey squirrel in a forest. It needs to kill enough of them, often enough, to make ground-level feeding feel dangerous. That shift in behavior costs grey squirrels calories and breeding success. Red squirrels, carrying the ancestral memory of exactly this kind of threat, already know to stay high and move fast. The playing field tilts, slowly, back toward the animal that was always supposed to be there. There is a forestry dimension too. Grey squirrels strip bark from young trees, and the damage is commercially significant, causing millions of pounds in losses each year across Britain. Fewer grey squirrels means better tree recruitment, which means denser, more connected woodland over time, and that feeds back as better habitat for martens. The system starts closing its own loops. McPherson is careful about how far she will take the claims. Pine martens are not a removal tool, they cannot eliminate grey squirrels, and anyone expecting that will be disappointed. Female martens do not breed until their third year, litters run 1 to 3 kits at most, and population growth is slow by design. Her own assessment is that full confirmation of landscape-scale success is at least 15 years away. The short-term criteria have been met, the long-term ones have not been tested yet. What has already happened is that 51 animals from Scotland proved the concept well enough that it got replicated. The Forest of Dean reintroduction followed in 2019 and 2021 with 35 martens. Devon followed in 2024. A National Strategic Recovery Plan, backed by Nature Scot, Natural England, and Natural Resources Wales, set out a roadmap for staged releases across Britain. One van, one night drive, one carefully chosen landscape started all of it. Decades of trapping, culling, and contraceptive bait could not shift the grey squirrel population at scale. A small team with 51 Scottish pine martens did more in 5 years than all of it combined. The forest did not need a new intervention, it needed the animal that used to live there put back. Subscribe to Daily Discoveries for more stories like this one, and share it with someone who thinks conservation is always a losing battle. Sometimes the answer was already here. We just spent a century getting rid of it.